Welcome to Philly Prime. I'm Dave Schratweiser. The hangover's almost over, folks. Eagles losing the Super Bowl Sunday, but it is still the talk of the town, and nobody better to talk to us about it than Fox 29's Chris O'Connell. He covered the run-up to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl just like he went to the World Series with the Phillies. When it comes to covering the fans and what's the hottest buzz around our teams, this is the guy I want to talk to. Chris O, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I can tell you, we miss you not only in the newsroom, but we miss you on Philadelphia News. But I'm glad to see you're off to some good stuff, man.
Yeah. Listen, I love doing this. It's a lot of fun. You get to cover a lot of different topics, and I get to have guys I know on the show like you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great to see you.
Chris, just give me your overall kind of personal view. You did both the playoff games, obviously the season throughout. You are the Fox 29 go-to guy when it comes to the fans. They love to put you out there with everybody. You get them all going. But you've had a couple days to kind of absorb this. What do you think about all this and this run to the Super Bowl? I know everybody's disappointed, but they played a hell of a game, and I thought it was a great season.
Yeah, first of all, it was a great season. And it's all about the season. You know, we saw a quarterback that a lot of people had questions about in the beginning. You know, that came to fruition. He's now our quarterback. We saw some Hall of Famers, you know, go through some Warrior stuff this season. Then we have this great record, and then we go to the playoffs, and everything was great. And the attitude of Philly fans changed. You know, it used to be where, kind of when we were in the Super Bowl 5 years ago, it was like, oh, we're probably going to lose. And it was like that. And well, this was much different leading up to it. You know, we had the fan confidence anyway that we were going to win this game. It was a much different attitude for fans. But what's such a great season, and especially going through, another Super Bowl to be with it, the fans throughout that ride, which is so awesome.
And I wonder, you think it was the 2018 win that kind of had him in that different mode this time, or it was just the team was so good? We were the number one seed, really, really deserved to be there. I think everybody thought that. They were a 1.5 favorite with the bookies. We should talk about that a little bit because the bookies were smiling from year to year after this weekend. They took a beating all season long in South Philly. But I think the attitude kind of changed. I noticed that too. I didn't hear that negativism at all anywhere where I was. And I'm down in Ocean City at the shore. So everybody down here is either from Philly or, Delaware, or a little bit of New Yorkers down here. But everybody was talking about the buzz, the banners all over the place, everywhere up and down. I mean, the sales of merchandise down here the last couple of days at the stores on Asbury Avenue were off the hook. Mm-hmm. Talk about that a little bit. Everybody wanted a piece of something from the Eagles, especially that it's a Philly thing.
Well, I'll tell you, merch sales, just, going to the Super Bowl for merch sales. Yeah, I've been to that. That was my 6th Super Bowl. Fortunate enough to cover 5 of them and go to one personally. And with the merch, everyone did want a piece of this. The merchandise, the NFL shop, which basically is the merchandise arm of the NFL, they ran out of stuff a day and a half before the end of the Super Bowl. You go to in the arena in the State Farm Stadium, all the vendors were out by halftime of stuff, and then here locally, you couldn't get, you could hardly get your hands on stuff immediate, especially those green jerseys. Those green jerseys were. But yeah, that was a big part of what we did. People spend a ton of money on this stuff.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. I know you did a couple of stories about merchandise. What was like the biggest sale you saw somebody ring up in your little excursions into who was buying up stuff?
Well, I know a friend that spent well over $1,000. But you're getting stuff. You're getting stuff for people back home, maybe people paying you for stuff. But again, I kept telling people, all this stuff's online. You can find everything online. And after covering 6 Super Bowls, I also know if you're there on Super Bowl Monday at 9 a.m., everything that's left is gone for half price. So
yeah. It was funny. My wife was in one of the stores down here in in Ocean City on Saturday, and she was buying up a storm because she wanted to get the kids, the grandkids stuff, and herself some stuff. And the place was packed with people buying stuff.
That's that's just kind of symbolic of the hype around it. That people just want to be connected to that kind of thing. They want to be connected to their team. That's why people want it. It's a kind of a tangible thing. Like you're part of the group. You're part of the tribe. And, the more they win, the more people come into that tribe.
Yeah. And what was kind of leaving the stadium Sunday night after they lost? Give me the vibe from the people that were out there, because you had to do a little piece for the 10 o'clock news, which was probably on more like 11 or 11:30 that night.
Yeah.
But what was kind of their – I mean, I felt like they played a great game. Jalen was awesome. Couple little mistakes in the fourth quarter, the punt return, things like that. But it did seem like people were saying, yeah, I'm sorry they lost, but, man, we got a lot to look forward to.
Well, there were a lot of expletives leaving the stadium. The people leaving the stadium were not happy.
Yeah.
They were not happy. Whether it be the refs or, and keep in mind, each of these people spent at least $10,000 each to go to that game. With the confidence that they were leaving going to a parade.
Right.
That didn't happen. So, that initial sting, I mean, we had to bleep out some video, some people, as you can imagine. But, a few days later, I don't know. People, I think, are still I think the few days later was actually worse.
Yeah.
Just people just feeling empty and hollow. Like, I certainly did. It was it was sad, but again, as we were kind of talking about, I wrote about it, about, it's not about the win, the loss, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Of course, I want the team to win. Of course, I was born into this.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'll remember the journey. The same thing I'll remember with the World Series. It sucked. They lost. But I'll remember the times I was with the fans, the times I was, hanging out with some of the, the players' families, and the trash talking I had with the opposing fans. That's the stuff I'm going to remember.
Yeah, yeah. And tell us about that. You penned a really nice message on Facebook. I think it was Monday, talking about the journey, that kind of thing. What kind of moved you to do that? I mean, you were down about the game, but you want some hope for folks out there. And I got to tell you, for me too, I mean, I read what you wrote. It was awesome. I think I put a little comment in about it. And I felt like kind of that's what people should remember. I mean, look, they're going to go back. There's no doubt in my mind about that, with all of, the talent they have on that team and the way they've been assembling things and the way Sirianni's been coaching and Howie Roseman's been doing his thing. I think they got a good shot at going back for a few years in a row here now. But kind of what made you want to write that?
Honestly, I had a little time. I was at the airport after everything, and in our job, Dave, it's a lot of fun. People ask me, "Oh my God, how many parties did you go to? How fun was it?" And I didn't go to one party that I wasn't working at. It's not like that. Hey, I was blessed to be able to cover the Super Bowl, the team that I love, for a week straight, bringing stories. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, a lot of long hours, a lot of pictures, a lot of videos, and a lot of stuff. And even for me, every day, it's just so fast. I mean, the days just went by so fast.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking through all my pictures of the week, and I'm just kind of soaking it all in, wrapping it all up in my head. And I just kind of wanted to wrap everything up, not just like, oh, we lost, bummer, we're going back to Philly. I just kind of had some thoughts about, what it meant to be a fan, because really that's what it's all about. I talked about, not about the wins and the losses. I remember, drinking beers with my dad in the tailgate at Lot K, throwing the footballs and doing our tasty cake traditions, and everyone eating one before the game, the homemade meatballs. Like, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Just me. There are countless other stories too. So that's what it means to be a fan, not so much about how many Super Bowl wins you have.
Yeah. Everybody, if you don't know this, Chris is famous at Fox for when he goes on these trips, or he's at the airport heading out, or when he gets there, he's always waiting with some goodies. He brings a bag of Philly goodies with him to the airport to greet the fans. Tasty cakes, pretzels. I don't know if he slipped in a couple cheesesteaks. I think he has some Wawa hoagies during the World Series with Schwarber and the guys.
Yeah, I gave Schwarber a Wawa hoagie during media day.
I remember it was awesome, and I got one of those T-shirts, those Wawa T-shirts. It's a treasured heirloom now, kind of thing. But tell me why you do that. You bring a little piece of Philly with you on the road, so to speak. And dude, I saw more than one smile when you kind of pop those babies out there and say, "Hey, look what I got you."
Yeah, well, number one, it's a good way to find fans from us. So you show a little bit of home, but it actually started when I worked in Minnesota. And of course, I traveled around in my job. I worked in Florida, I worked in Minnesota, I worked in Virginia. But when I was in Minnesota, Eagles were playing, I believe it was a divisional game against Minnesota. Maybe it was a wild card. Again, my team coming to my, town that I now live in, I was kind of enemy territory. But the day beforehand, maybe 2 days beforehand, I was in the Vikings locker room doing locker room interviews. And I happened to have some tasty cakes on me. And during the media availability, I snuck tasty cakes into the locker room. I hid them underneath like a storage locker in another place against the wall. Just left them there as like a, good luck.
A greeting card.
and the Eagles ended up winning the game. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been the last game at the Metrodome, and they demolished the place. So those tasty cakes are forever embedded in the
laying under the rubble, huh?
So that's kind of why I do it. It was just kind of people at home know tasty cake. Now you can get tasty cakes anywhere.
Yeah. Listen, it's a tough question. See if you can answer it. Of all the fans you interviewed, I mean, I saw one segment, I think, after they won the NFC Championship that you did with like 4 guys outside the stadium. And dude, it was awesome. It was just all of them were nuts. But out of the 5 guys present, I think you were crazier than any of the other 4. But anybody kind of stick out of all the people you interviewed, either in the playoffs or at the Super Bowl? Anybody kind of stick out for either what they said or what they did, or their some crazy element they included in your interview?
Well, I ran into a super fan that always shows up, and we never plan it. There's a guy named Philly Sports Guy.
Yeah,
and he's a face, and he face paints with the the baseball, and every game I just happen to run into him, and the guy's I don't even know his real name, but Philly Sports Guy is a great guy. One interaction I had when I was doing a live shot during the World Series, or maybe it was the NL Championship. I was doing man on the street interviews, and it was raining. It was down in Atlanta, and I see this guy drinking a beer, just solo walking down, had a Phillies cap on. I was like, "Hey, buddy, you're a Phillies fan? Where you from?" He's like, "From Denver." I said, "How did you become a Phillies fan?" He goes, "Well, Nick Castellanos, my grandson."
Yeah.
So I just happened to run into Nick Castellanos' grandson or grandson.
Well, let me tell you, folks, I worked with Chris for about 10 years at Fox, and he we both know that the news business is working hard and 50% luck. I mean, you the people you run into, the interviews you get, the tips you get, and how they kind of pan out with a little bit of hard work kind of thing. But luck has a lot to do with it. You feel that way when you're out there mining for the interview that I know you want to make. They're coming to me first tonight at the top of the newscast. I want to blow the doors off, which you always try to do when it comes to the big games and stuff like that in the series and all that kind of stuff. But it is a little bit of luck. Some guy wanders into your hemisphere and bam, he ends up being the interview of the day.
You say 50% luck. I say it's like almost 80% luck.
All right.
You make what you make of it,
Yes.
Sometimes that luck's bad, and you gotta make with the bad luck. So yeah, and for reporting, it's not just what you know or who you know. It's also putting yourself in a position, in the right positions to get those stories, to find those people. You don't never know what you're gonna find or whatever. But you know, with experience, you kind of know that, and you kind of have an inner gut feeling of kind of where to be to possibly put yourself in those positions. And it's not like a physical, tangible thing. It's just a kind of a gut reaction.
Yeah. And listen, I don't want to walk by my former colleagues, night side and day side, the camera people who put all this together and have our back on the street 24 hours a day. And, when you're covering big games like this and it's the fans coming and going, you got to have another set of eyes, kind of keeping an eye on what's going on around you, whether it's celebrating after a big win or leaving the building depressed and upset after the building. Those live shots can turn hairy in a second, and you got to have the guys and ladies behind the cameras, and everybody did such a great job out there in Arizona and in San Diego during the World Series, that kind of thing. But tell the folks out there kind of how valuable the person working with you is. It's a 50-50 game. We get the interviews and the sound and all that kind of stuff, and they get the pictures. You get a lot of pictures because you shoot a lot on your iPhone and on your own stuff that you carry with you. So you contribute to that a lot. But it's really important to remember those folks because they get the pictures that make those stories hum.
Yeah, they're part of the team. Keep in mind, we have, just counting, we had Mike Jarek, Alex Holly, Jen Fred, myself, and Breedlin Moore. 5 on-air people that went to the Super Bowl. We sent 14.
Yeah,
those other people are the bones that make it all work, from the planning, the producing, to the shooting and editing. As far as I'm concerned, like, I'm usually, Dave, you were doing the same thing. We get paired up with a photographer, and usually that photographer is with you a lot, like almost every night, if maybe 2-3 nights a week, and you spend more time with these people than your own family. You're in the cars, you go through the ups and downs, the security issues, the good interviews, the bad interviews, the meat of your work are with these people. These you spend a lot of time with them. It's not just the person in a cubicle like most people work around. These are very tight, and they also work under high stress situations and very tight deadlines, and dealing with a lot of different kinds of people, whether it be out in the public or in the business. So these guys are highly talented guys that work in kind of a guerrilla kind of job, getting their hands dirty, getting pushed around, getting the middle finger, pointed at them more and more recently. So it's a tough job, but these guys do it. They do it as professionals, and it is a very specialized job that not everyone can do, Dave. This is
Yeah, and listen, I've been at some TV stations. I know you have too. I don't hesitate for 2 seconds to call the crew that we have at Fox 29, the best in the business in Philadelphia, in my book, and at any place I ever worked before. Just top shelf, and I work with network guys and stuff like that. I was in the first Persian Gulf War covering that for CBS. I've been around a really whole lot of talented people. Fox 29 has some of the best in the business, no doubt about it.
And I will say, anytime we need any kind of, it's not even when we need it, it's assigned to us. We have security personnel with us in the field. Yeah. Anytime we have a major championship like that, they assign us 1 or 2 security personnel. Same thing with any other kind of unrest in the city or anything that we need. We raise our hands. We need security. They allow us to, because that's what allows us to cover. That allows us to do our jobs and tell the stories.
Yeah. Tell me about the plane ride out. Were you on a plane with a lot of fans in addition to our people, and the plane ride back? Measure the 2 emotions for me. I'm sure there were Philly people going out and coming back on the plane with you.
We went out early, so there wasn't a lot of people going out a week early for the Super Bowl. So there were a few, but the ones that are going out were Eagles fans. And there's always the chants. There's always the but I can tell you the real, like, Thursday before the Super Bowl, that's like move-in day. Super Bowl week kind of, starts on Monday. You have a media night and Tuesday,
Yep.
but really Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That is the bulk of Super Bowl week, when the big parties are happening, the big NFL events are happening. There's a lot more people coming to town because, keep in mind, it's,
Yeah.
you don't know you're going to a Super Bowl, 3 weeks before you're going. So there's some planning involved if you're a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Big parties out there. Did you have a favorite? You visited a few. Kind of what stuck out for you there?
There were these parties, like, I didn't go to them, but I was close to them. It was like the Maxim party. I went to one of the first Maxim parties a long time ago. A lot of fun, a lot of beautiful people, a lot of see and be seen. You want to be around celebrities. There's those kinds of parties. Then there's like the tailgate kind of parties where it's like the Eagles centric, groups of people, a couple hundred will rent out a restaurant. And those were fun. Those were freaking out of hand. Those were insane. That's all I could say. There's some stories there that I was shaking my head. I was in a room afterwards, like, what just happened in that Eagles party that I just did a live shot? It was, Dave, I kid you not, it was crazy. Those people were there to have some fun, and they were having fun.
Yeah. I noticed the stadium at the beginning of the game too, when the Eagles obviously came down right away and scored. Measure the Chiefs versus Eagles. I thought it was 2/3, maybe, Eagles fans. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hard to measure.
Very hard to measure. I always say this with the Super Bowl. It's the vibe on a Super Bowl is nothing like any home game. Because in a home game, you have 70,000 people that are wearing green.
Yeah.
Cut that in half, not even in half. Cut that in a third. So I'm just guessing. A third of the stadium was green, a third of the stadium was red, a third of the stadium just had corporate dollars that they were there and had no rooting interest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's most Super Bowls. I do feel this Super Bowl had maybe a little bit more Eagle enthusiasm. I was there. It wasn't noticeable, and the only reason why it was probably noticeable because they had a lot more bigger plays. They were winning most of the game. And I can tell you, Dave, watching a Super Bowl like live, and as opposed to where most people watching it with it on TV and a monitor, I did not see any of the Super Bowl with a TV. There was no monitor above me. I didn't have a laptop like most reporters had. I did it for a number of reasons. I didn't want to bring a laptop in there, and I just wanted to watch the game. I didn't see a Super Bowl commercial. It's such a different. I saw the halftime show just with my own eyes, not close-ups. I had no idea why people were thinking Rihanna was pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, until I watched it on TV, I'm like, oh, that's why. I had no idea.
Yeah.
The guy covering the game, I had no idea Patrick Mahomes was hurt until I saw it on TV 2 days later.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see him limping, and then he was in the game most of the time. So it's such a different perspective watching it in person than most of people watching it on TV. It's much better watching it on TV, a football game, by far, in my opinion.
Yeah. A heck of an experience in your 30-plus years of being a reporter. Where does this one rank?
It's always like, I can't. I've had so many fortunate and incredible experiences. Like I said, I have 6 Super Bowls that I covered.
Yeah.
Was the one that we won pretty cool? I would say that ranked up there.
Yeah.
In terms of tops, but in terms of like the Super Bowl experience, 100 times this one. Phoenix was gorgeous. The weather was nice. There were great events. That made a lot to do with it. People seemed to be happier. And we didn't even touch on the Waste Management Phoenix Open that
I saw that too. Yeah.
Man, that's a little bit of a golf outing and a whole lot of a frat party.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I could see that out there. I know some people who actually went to that. They were out there for the game, but they went a couple days and hung out at that. They said it was awesome. It was kind of a crazy.
I'm not a golfer because I can't golf anymore, so I don't really follow it too much. But I would take a vacation and go out there again to do that. I was considering let's stop Super Bowl coverage. Let's go back out there for another day because it was so much fun and so many characters.
And you got some good stories out of there too.
Yeah.
Both you and Jen Frederick. I think Jen was out there for the morning show.
And tons of Eagles fans. Tons. Not only that were going out there, but also who live out there.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you this. On the fun meter for me in my career, and most of my stuff was covering pretty serious stuff over the years. The two biggest days, I think there's three big ones for me. I was sitting in a helicopter in center field when the Phillies won in 2008, 2009, when the last pitch was thrown and Ruiz came running out to the mound. I was sitting in a chopper over the stadium waiting to get whatever happened after the game when that happened. And I'm getting, goosebumps talking about it right now, but it was freaking crazy awesome. And then I was at the DoubleTree on Broad Street on the fourth floor of the parking deck there with Dave Eitzen when they won the Super Bowl, and Broad Street went berserk back in 2018. And I got to tell you, that was way up there on the fun meter. And I know why people kind of missed the parade this week, but the most fun day I had from start to finish, and I came in at 7 a.m. that day, and I went home at 8 o'clock at night. And I think I said it my last live shot standing on Broad Street with Brian Zela, my camera guy, this is the most fun day I ever had in the news business. It was just fun from start to finish, and nothing negative. Everybody was positive. It was cool. It was a cool thing,
And the weird aspect of being in Minnesota and I was hoping for this one is, people are like, man, it must be cool to be at the Super Bowl. It's awesome, 1,000%. But once the clock strikes 0, the party's in Phil. I want nothing to do with I want to be back home with all the people, like where you were. I missed all that.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to I didn't get a chance to see the grease poles. I never saw that because I was there. So.
And it was crazy because
rolls.
Yeah, where I was at on the fourth level of the parking garage there, and we had permission to be up there, by the way, from the DoubleTree people. I was eye level with one of those poles, and a guy climbed up that pole in the green suit. It was crazy. It was not. The guy was like eye level with us, me and Dave, in the parking garage, and we were just like, they came to us like 50,000 times in the show because there was such great live TV there. And so I know the feeling you're talking about, and some folks want to be at the game and see the joy at the end of the game. Some people want to be back in the city and kind of see what happens. But it's an awesome thing.
It's a good trade-off too, because Dave, as you well know more than anyone in this business, you cover some horrible, horrible news, and these days are this coverage is a nice little trade-off for the horrible news we have to cover sometimes. So a little bright light, and
All right. Well, speaking of bright lights, what a perfect transition. Today is opening day for catchers and pitchers for the Phillies down in Clearwater. So you don't have to lament for 2 months before the Phillies start.
Yeah.
They're already there. I saw Real Muto and some of the guys heading to the field this morning, kind of thing. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, Christopher. How much are you looking forward to the baseball season, my friend?
I'm looking forward to. I'm usually not like I can't wait for the Phillies to start because I want to see. I'm a game day fan. I like to, I want to go to the games when they count. That's when I like to be a fan. This year is a little different. Like I want to see who's, I'm looking at, I know Bryce not going to be there, but I'm excited about the season. I think the fans, I'm sure they're going to put ton more people in the seats this year after last year. So I think it's going to be one of those decent seasons. I think, as far as they look on the field, let's hope for another run because it was special last year.
And they got Trey Turner to kind of fill in here now till Bryce gets back, kind of thing. So I think that'll hold him in that gap pretty good. But starting the season? And were you hearing any of that buzz from people coming back from the game, or are you hearing it now a little bit? I'll tell you, I was in the gym this morning working out, and people were still lamenting the Eagles, but then a couple guys, piped up, hey, the Phillies start today, catchers and pitchers. Yeah. And, we're going back to the World Series and the great offseason pickups and wait till Bryce gets back, that kind of thing. They were already talking red. They were switching from green to red then.
You said it right there. That was the best part for fans is that, usually, they could have been, some seasons, your NFL season is done in November. I mean, the season might be, but your playoff hopes are done.
Yeah.
So you're kind of starved with sports through the winter months. We had like 3 days. Like, when does that ever happen? Because, it's actually, I can tell you, it's never happened because the NFL season has expanded to 18 games and pushed back the Super Bowl, which pushed it back closer to the the spring training. So this is, I think, the first time that's ever happened that's been this close. So yeah, we had a couple days to catch our breath and go right to baseball, which is awesome.
And it does seem like the Philly season just ended. And to tell you the truth, I know some people in the front office and in and around. I know the Fanatic a little bit, and I had him on my show right after they won the World Series. He was awesome, by the way, Tom. And I got to tell you, they're like, it's already here. We're here already. It feels like the season just ended, and bam, we're back.
I love it.
Yeah.
And not only that, just looking outside, it's just beautiful, warm weather we've been having. It's crazy. It feels like spring.
Yeah, well, maybe it's gonna be faster than you think getting to that. But yeah, fan wise, what are you looking forward to opening day? I'm guessing you can't wait to be there in the stands or outside the stadium when they open up.
Yeah, opening day is always awesome. I mean, it's always usually a nice afternoon day, taking the day off work.
Yeah.
And we're usually down there. And what's great about the beginning of any season, it's like that. It's hope is eternal. It's like it's beginning of something, again, coming off a great season. So, opening day is always great. Yeah. The one I hate to say, our former our former colleague, Bruce Gordon.
Yeah.
I love him to death. He was the best at what he did. But for one respect, I'm glad he retired because that was his assignment every year, opening day. So he retired, I kind of assumed that assignment now.
Yeah, the mantle got pushed to you now.
Yeah.
So, and Bruce, let me tell you something. Talk about a baseball fan. Oh. I mean, that dude is off the hook with memorabilia and jerseys and cards and bobbleheads and all that kind of thing. But I used to watch him. He sat opposite me in the newsroom. I used to watch him kind of gearing up that week before. You could see it. Oh, I got a reason to come to work Monday, or I got to, you know what I mean? I'm not just going to come in and cover this or cover that or cover city council. I got opening day on Tuesday or Wednesday, and you could see his spirits like lifting up. But you get to do that now.
That goes for a lot of the, week they, NFC Championship, going to the Super Bowl, the weeks, people are a little bit nicer to each other. Your coffee tastes a little better,
Amen. That Wawa coffee you drink on the way to work every day.
Right. So it's, people are just, it's just nicer to be around when your team is doing well.
All right. Prediction for the Phillies. You going to go out on a little bit of a limb here?
I honestly make it a point not to make predictions. I'm not smart enough to know. I don't pretend to that. I do think they're going to go deep in the playoffs. Hope another World Series, who knows? But you know what I've learned in sports? Look at where the Eagles were going. We get to 14-3, and it's like, when's the parade? When are we doing the parade? And it's like things change, and injuries happen, and stuff happens. So, and other teams get hot, and vice versa. So, I think if they do anything like they have they got the good nucleus. They got, they got some and new pieces. I can't see why they wouldn't go deep in the playoffs.
Yeah. Let's end with kind of this. I was reading your thing on Facebook about the journey, And I'm troubled by some of the stuff that's going on in Philadelphia over the last few years. And I know people are troubled about that. But it was great to see people rally around the Phillies in the fall, late summer and into the fall. It was great to see the city on a much higher level. Kind of people were just feeling good, and people were buddying up with each other, doing cheers and rooting on the team. They went to the World Series. Everybody was ecstatic, into November kind of thing. We got through the holidays. Then the Eagles were on fire going to the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, and the good karma continued kind of thing. And now we're going into the Philly season with a lot of, I'm sure, high hopes and expectations for them. Me, as a guy who covered Philadelphia for 35 years, I kind of want to see that positivity and that loving on each other and enjoying each other because you have something central to focus on. I want to see that transcend here, dude, because I don't like some of the things I'm seeing in Philadelphia when it comes to stuff that's going on the street, the violence and the murders and things like that. And I really am kind of hoping some of this love makes its way out into the communities and the streets, and people say, hey, let's love each other. Let's be better to each other. Let's be better. Let's start with better to each other. And look, we showed it. We showed it during the Phillies run. We showed it during the Eagles run. We're all anticipating another Phillies run. Can we make this last? That's what I'm
Well,
thinking.
I'll tell you, Dave, it's a good start. It's a good start. The one thing that I see a lot of in talking about gun violence and where it is, it's a lot of finger pointing. It's a lot of, they're not doing the good job. These people aren't doing the good job. This person's not doing a good job. Media's not doing a good job. A lot of finger pointing. And I say yes, 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 and yes. But let's all, again, come together and, point the finger at each other. Point the finger at the media. What can we do better? What can solutions that we can do? But in terms of the common thread, that's a good start because we're starting with ourselves. We're starting in our communities. Like, be responsible for you, be responsible for your family, then open the circle. I'm a firm believer of keeping your circle tight. Be responsible for your circle, your family, who you can be, and accountable for yourself. And if everyone did that to themselves, then we would be a better place. It's just people are too worried about what that person's doing and that person's doing. Get control of yourself and your people, and it goes to me too. Like I'm talking to myself when I'm talking like that. I make sure my girls are doing good in school. I make sure if they do bad, I discipline them. I make sure that I'm accountable for what I do on TV and in life. And if everyone kind of does that, then the world will be a better place. And getting back to the sports angle, that's part of it. It's like we're buddies with him, and we have
there you go.
There's no common better bond around here than two words. I've learned this week: go Birds. I don't care if it's a homeless person or my best friend or my mom. It's the sentiment is the same. Go Birds. We're all a family.
Yeah. So maybe let's make that to the next level. Let's go Philly. Okay. Go Philly. Because I got to tell you, if you looked around, whatever living room you were in, whatever bar you were in, restaurant you were in, stadium you were in, and you saw the kind of joy that should be kind of how we feel about each other when we're sitting next to our pal or a guy we don't even know wearing an Eagles jersey or a Phillies jersey during the World Series. Remember that kind of camaraderie. And to me, take that to where you live. I mean, you said keep the circle tight. I'm a keep the circle tight guy, but I also want to make the circle bigger. Push that joy out to other people. Maybe if you don't have a commonality with somebody and you're in the middle of something, that confrontation or whatever, hey, dude, remember like 2 weeks ago, dude, we're all rooting for the Eagles. Go Birds. Let's do something to kind of make that last and maybe take a first step like you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't cost anything.
No.
It makes your city better. It's just I'm a firm believer of that. But again, it's a good start. Having sports teams or having something to root for, having commonality, that's where it starts.
Yeah, yeah. And I got to tell you, dude, having you on the show, talking about all this has been super exciting. It's been really, really good, and I appreciate you coming on. And let me tell you something, folks. Chris O'Connell is from Delaware County, but he's Philly through and through, and he wants the city to be better. That's why he gets in there with all you fans and, does his thing with you and brings your sentiment and your feelings and your joy to folks at home kind of thing. And he's all about making Philly better. And for that, brother, I got to tell you, I love you for that.
Thank you. Love you, Dave. Thank you for having me, man. I didn't feel like it was a show. It's just a conversation. We need to do it more.
Yes, indeed. And, whether we do it on a podcast or we do it over a beer, it's always welcome. And thanks for coming on the show, bro. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to opening day. And I won't nudge Bruce too bad and tell him, hey, O'Connell's going this year. You're not, kind of thing. I'll give him a hard.
He'll still go, but he's in the stands having a beer and peanuts. So
yeah, he might bump you out of a live shot after the game too. You got to be careful there. Anyway, man, thank you for coming on, folks. Thanks for listening to Philly Prime this week. I had a blast, and I'm glad Chris could come on. He's a busy fellow. Now he's got to go to work, and I appreciate him being there. Tune in next time for the next Philly Prime podcast. It's great having you.
Take care, Dave. Thanks.
Take care, man.